All right, good morning, everybody. Today is August 5th, 2021. Welcome to a new installment of Autodesk Virtual Academy presented by KETIV Technologies. We got quite a session today. We got a very special guest here today. She's been with us for, I think, probably over at least a couple of years now, I think. But Christine, we've been working with her for a long time, and we're going to be talking about a highly requested topic here as well. So we're going to be kind of talking a bit about iLogic, using Excel with Inventor, automation, and I can't stress this enough. This is one of the best guests we could have had to present here today. Christine, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself here, Christine? How you doing this morning?
Oh, thanks. Thanks for that lovely introduction there, Adam. Yeah, I've been with KETIV for, it'll be coming on to 2 years now, and really love working here and very happy to be here to share with everybody just a little bit about Excel and parameters and how that can help you with your generative design models. And so let's get going.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah.
So we had a bit of an introduction. I'll go a bit more into that. We'll talk a little bit about the problem that we're trying to address, and then we'll go ahead and show some code and how this all works. First off, my name is Christine Bonney. I'm an architect, a solution architect for KETIV. I've been working in the CAD/CAM software industry for over 20 years. Part of that was, a large part of my career was with Autodesk. I was with them for over 20 years actually, and have a little plaque that says I'm a founding developer, founding author of Inventor. So I've got a lot of experience with that application. And then Adam asked me to give you an interesting fact. My very first job, how many of you have seen Hunt for Red October? Well, the underwater sound surveillance system was the very first thing I ever worked on in my professional career. I did that when I was 18. I had to be 18 because I had to have a security clearance that required that age. Anyhow, enough of that. Let's get to our problem. So looking at generative design, as you know, you make a configurable model and you have lots of options for it. And some of those options match other options. And this is all done through parameters. So you put together a model that's got parameters, say that maybe have length and width and height, and maybe they have some features that are present or not present. And maybe those features can move around in the assembly or the part based on whatever some of the inputs are. Long story short, you're doing something so you don't have to create this model over and over and over again. You can just fiddle with your parameters and get the one you need. Sometimes this is because you've got a model that you buy from a manufacturer and there's a whole spec sheet that they send you or that is available that gives you all these parameters. And so you make a configurable part so you don't have to make, 2,700 of them if that's how many there are. Also, sometimes you have a part that just every once in a while you have to update something or something changes to customize for a specific customer, or you need to add an additional configuration. So we're going to talk about ways to use Excel to help you do this a whole lot easier today.
Christine, I had a question. Do you think this kind of workflow, is it kind of specific to like an industry? Like, do you think manufacturers would get more use out of this, or maybe like building people? Who do you think this is for exactly?
I think everybody can use this. Anytime you have a widget, let's call it, that has to take slightly different shapes or forms, this is something you can use. And for those of you that are using Inventor 2022, you should look in model states. because
Oh, and I do have a poll question actually. We did get them
yeah,
uploaded if you want to run the poll here really quick.
yeah, because model states are just they kind of encapsulate all of this. So they give you a built inside Inventor way to do this. So if you're looking to move to 2022 and you have a bunch of generative models, you might want to look at whether you want to continue to use them the way you have them now, or whether it's worth it to you to actually remodel them using model states.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to emphasize too at this point, just based on the poll responses here coming in, there's, I think plenty of people have some experience with iLogic and some people have some experience with Excel. And I think these workflows will still be pretty relevant regardless of what version you're in, especially going backwards in 2021 and previous. I'm going to end the poll here so you can see these results as well, Christine. Can you see those?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have some people in 2022 already, like good on you guys. A majority people 21 and previous. Some people are familiar with iLogic and Excel as well. So, feel free to put on some sauce on this demonstration, Chris.
Okay, thanks. Can I go ahead and close this then?
Please. Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about how we're going to drive model features and positioning from an Excel spreadsheet, and how we can also use that Excel spreadsheet to allow specific selections. So we'll give them a list of things to pick from rather than type it in any way you want. So let's get over to Inventor. So here I've made a small configurable widget. As you can see, it's got some parameters that control button height, the button style, whether it's square or round. And then I've also got something in here called a model number, which is some metadata that I would like to fill out because I want to send it downstream, maybe to an ERP system or something like that. When you first create something like this, you probably create 3 parameters, or maybe only just 2, the height and the button style, and those are both just user configurable. The user just types in anything he wants to into those fields, and you have to deal with it. The problem with that is when you put it up on your form, they can write anything you want to inside there. And so you have to deal with data that's out of bounds or maybe a typo, and we really don't want our code to have to do that. So what has been done in this model is that for button style, we've created a, what do they call it? Multi-value list parameter. And that way we have specific things that the user can choose, not just anything they want. And then we also have created a list of viable, usable button heights that can work on this model, okay? So that helps clear up some of your problems. The thing is, you still have to populate these, and there's still some chance for usable human error getting the right numbers in there. So that's why we want to go ahead and go to a spreadsheet. But just to show you how this works, we can go into and say we want a circle of size 4, and then you say build, and it goes ahead and updates everything. Or if you want to change just that and say you'd rather have a square build, again, there's iLogic behind it that are pushing those parameters into the appropriate places inside your parameters for the part, and gets you the thing you want. So going back to this, where did this data come from using Excel? So let me show you the Excel spreadsheet. So we have out here created this spreadsheet, and it has a list of viable choices for that. And we have a rule that we read and set parameter values. So if I run this rule, it's going to go ahead and set in the form values that match. Where's my spreadsheet? The spreadsheet. So we should have in button style, circle and square, and then in button height, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that's what was in our spreadsheet, right? So there we have values 3, 4, 5, 6. So that makes it easier to not get values that don't work or to get entries that aren't even valid for what you need to use it for. You know, if somebody accidentally typed in, 12 inches or something like that in button height, that might be a problem if they spelled something wrong and the parameter couldn't evaluate it. So how did this data get into this dialog where we can use it? That takes us over to our iLogic rules. So we'll start with how we read and set parameter values from iLogic. We create our little subroutine main, and the first thing we want to do is set up some lists to hold the information. Let me see if I can get the spreadsheet up here at the same time. So we've got columns. Let's get this over just a bit. Columns that control or that hold information, our model number, our button style, and our position height. And so we're going to set a couple of lists up there to read this information. And we're going to go ahead and use the Excel snippet for cell values, which is something that you can just get out of your Excel snippet on the left-hand side. And so we're giving it the link or the name of what we're going to read, what sheet we want to get our data off of, what column we want. And then this is a keyword that says read everything in the column. So go all the way to the end. And that will allow it to read it all in one chunk. Working with Excel is kind of slow. So whenever you can, you want to read as much data as you can in a single call. It'll help you with performance. It's not such a big deal here because we're not reading a lot of things, but if we were reading lots of rows, we might want to do it all at once if we can into a giant matrix and then work with that, for example, or a list of lists. Same thing for button height. We're going to go ahead and grab from sheet 1, column C2. So there we go. So we're saying starting at C1, read to the end of the row, starting at C2, read to the end. Okay. That's going to go ahead and give us these lists.
And Christine, you said those are the Excel snippets already, right? So those are already available on the default iLogic browser?
Over here somewhere. Where did they come from? Find row, so you can see them. There's a whole bunch of.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I've noticed those. I've never tried using them myself, but that's good to see. Yeah.
They're pretty handy. So yeah, good question. So when I say snippets, I mean you can get them off the left-hand system bar over there. So once we've read these in, it's going to read the whole thing. So the button style, for example, would have 4 entries of square and 4 entries of circle. And certainly we don't want to see our drop down have that much information in it. We want to clean it up a little. We're going to just have unique values shown. And it might be nice if we put them in some kind of order. So in order to do that, there's a little function that was written here that goes ahead and uniques the list and then sorts it alphanumerically. And you can see it's pretty easy. You pass in the list and it returns it updated. So what it's going to do is it's going to loop through that list and go ahead and create another list. But before the other list gets created, before it gets added to the other list, it's going to say, am I already in there? If it already contains it, then it's not going to add it. At the end, you've got a sorted list or you've got a unique list, and then we just use another wonderful feature on or a function on the list class, and that's sort. And so we just ask it to sort it. And so this is going to return a unique sorted list. And so instead of saying square, 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 circle, 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 it'll just say circle, square because we're sorting it alphanumerically. Same thing with the heights. So you won't have 8 entries with duplicates. You'll just have 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how that works. And to show you how that works, we can do that a couple different ways. Let's try going into our parameters dialog. And for example, let's go ahead and, I always do this wrong. Edit this list and remove everything out of it. Okay.
Just a heads up to
And
everyone as well. I did post a
so,
video about subroutines and functions as well. If you guys are curious about how to program that stuff in iLogic, we did a previous session on that as well. Sorry to interrupt there, Christine. Go ahead.
okay. So yeah, there's lots of stuff out there on most of the things that we're using right now. So we're going to go ahead and run this read and set parameters. And so if you go back to your parameters dialog, you will now see that we have all of the values in there, and we can go ahead and set them. So there we go. So that's how that got in there. And then when you go to your form, you will see that we've got all the values set there correctly. So now we've got all of this stuff together, and we've got a really good way to just pick values that we want to pick. The other thing that you can do in your iLogic, when you actually go ahead and configure this model based on this, is add some logic in there to make sure that things make sense. So as I mentioned before, there's also this parameter for model number, and that's just some metadata that's available in the spreadsheet. And so underneath the build rules, so when I go ahead and say build it, it's going to go ahead and figure that out, and it's going to read and add this metadata for me. The good thing that you can also do with that is, let's get back to the spreadsheet. Say I add another circle, C05, it's also a circle, and say it's going to be size 3.5, or at size 3.5. So we're going to save that. We're going to come over here and we're going to repopulate our parameters, make sure it read that in correctly. For button height, we should now have a 3.5. So yes, we see that's done. So now we're going to go ahead and configure this with our new size. So we'll say we just created a circle of a 3.5, and it goes ahead and does that. What you can do in the same logic where you're pulling extra information is say, I want to do a square. Well, we didn't add a square 3.5. So when I go to do a build, you can set it up and say, no matching model found. So that lets you know that you've got inconsistent data. So that's something that's kind of helpful. And if we go to the rules and look at how all that's done, under configure model, we're again using another Excel snippet. This one's called find row. So it's going to take your user parameter values, and it's going to use button style, which we say is square, and position height, which is the 3.5. And it's going to go and try and find a row that says in my button style column, find square, and in my position height, find 3.5 and return that row back to me. So that's, go ahead and find it. And then it will say, if you've got that current row, go ahead and give me the model number out of it. So the row, if it doesn't find it, it comes back as a -1. The column headers are going to be 0. And so we're going to look for something. A good value means it has to have returned something bigger than 1 or bigger than 0. So we'd put a check in here and say, okay, did I get a valid row? And if so, let's go ahead and update my model number with the found model number, and then go ahead and suppress or unsuppress the button feature based on what the selection is, and then go ahead and set the button height parameter. Now, if I didn't get a row number, meaning that the combination is invalid for me, then I'm just going to set my model number to not applicable, just to say I don't have one of these, and put up a little message box to let us know that we've gotten the wrong value. So this is just showing how you can do some extra data validation in here. This is a very simplistic model, you can add a ton more iLogic underneath there so that as you make your first selection in your form, that it goes ahead and makes sure so that if I pick circle, it would include the 3.5. If I picked square, it would not have 3.5 in there. I mean, there's just a ton of ways that you can make this more bulletproof to ensure that whenever you're picking configurations that they're good ones. And, you know, getting back to manufacturer provided spec sheets, say you've got some fastener or something that you've modeled and it comes in stainless steel, galvanized, and titanium. And of course, the titanium one costs 10 times as much. So you don't ever want to accidentally say that's the one you're ordering. So you can just pull that out of your spreadsheet when you go to read your data. And that way it's never even an option to ever get into your model number or your ERP system. So these are the kinds of things that this becomes very useful for. I mean, just giving you a lot of control over what you can show the person who's running the configuration and how you can manage doing that kind of thing.
That's an interesting distinction. Yeah, as it sounds like the Excel sheet itself is kind of a bigger part of this particular workflow. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can put a lot of stuff in, you know, like right now I've just got a model number in here, but there's all kinds of additional metadata that you might want to have. So say you're doing some steel beam or something, you could put, you know, weight per linear foot in there and use it to drive mass calculations or, you know, populate all kinds of things inside of Inventor. Or just your ERP system or what you need for downstream, or maybe there's a note that you need to have appear on your drawing when you annotate this, you can push it into an iProperty or something. There's just a ton of things that driving parameters and data from spreadsheets can really be helpful for. And as you saw, it's pretty easy to just add another option to this. Since we're doing the sort, you can add your options any order you want to. If you were to say, decide you needed another shaped button, you could update your model to have another button feature and add another button style and then just suppress and unsuppress, you know, modify your iLogic to handle that. So it's pretty easy to extend this once you've got it set up. And again, the spreadsheet, you only have to get all the information right once inside the spreadsheet. And then after that, it's kind of bulletproofed for you.
Yeah, thanks for the distinction. Yeah, there's actually a question here from Andy Burnett. He was asking.
Can you speak up a little bit, Adam? I'm having a real hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, adjust my gain maybe. Can you still hear me here?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question from Andy Burnett. He's asking specifically, how is this an advantage over writing iLogic multi-parameter set rules for changing the multi-value parameter list, which I think you already addressed with just kind of the usefulness of Excel, but could you expand on that a little bit?
I'm not sure what I'd have to say more than that, other than, you know, the Excel configurability makes it, you know, it's really easy to add. In most cases, you don't have to make any changes to your iLogic or your part at all. You can just add rows to your Excel spreadsheet.
Right. And I mean, could you set up, you said you could set up like stuff like iProperties, weight values, and like, I assume you could do like suppression states and stuff like that off of this Excel sheet as well. Is that right? Like feature suppression?
Well, that's what the button style is used for. If we go back to that particular rule where we're configuring the model, we look at the button style and then either suppress or unsuppress or set as active or not active.
Right.
How you want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to emphasize, yeah, there's a lot more than just like setting parameter values that's going on with this particular workflow. And of course, you have all the Excel benefits from just working with an Excel sheet. So thanks for the distinction there.
Yeah. So that's pretty much just what I wanted to share with everyone today, and hope this is useful to you. And maybe, you know, you've got a spreadsheet that you've had to have on your desk and the ruler to go ahead and go line by line down to make sure you're getting the right stuff in. Just read it in and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you had a few more slides for us as well, Chris.
Oh, right. Whoops. So yeah, so we've kind of gone over all of that. As Adam has been pointing out too, there's a ton more of AVA resources out there. He's posted this iLogic playlist, which is pretty much everything you'd ever want to do in iLogic and more. And then do we have any more questions?
Let me double check here. Hang on. We do have one question. And so, yeah, I think some of you guys already saw, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but there is a Q&A here, right? And so in your toolbar, there should be a Q&A button where you could submit questions. We got one from Delon over here. Does Inventor and iLogic support .gsheet format and other spreadsheet types?
I absolutely don't know. I've only ever used Excel. But if you can get it into a CSV, you can use it from Excel.
Yeah, I think G Sheets from, I think Google, I want to say, I'm not sure, but yeah, CSV is also supported and Excel is generally supported with Inventor. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to submit those here, of course. There's also a chat window if you guys have any other questions about chats. I've been posting the links in there. I just posted the playlist of iLogic videos we have on our channel. We've been doing it for quite a while. Yeah, we've been doing the videos for quite a while, about 26 individual videos on that playlist, which will be 27 with this video in particular. And then I did get confirmation from one other person. It looks like specifically for the G Sheets, the answer is no, not natively with iLogic snippets. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, any other questions or concerns? We could leave it open here for a few moments.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun to play with, you know, and
Absolutely, yeah.
I've enjoyed using spreadsheets and figuring out the best way to organize the data in the spreadsheet for what I want to use. And it's actually been very beneficial. We've done several automations that have had some component of it driven through spreadsheets. Everything from building large industrial pumps to storage tank facilities to racking systems, just a lot of things that can use this sort of data input to minimize what you have to look up and do manually. And again, greatly reduces the chance for human error, which is always good because, you know, you hate at the end of the day when you've either manufactured or ordered something that's the wrong thing.
Then I did want to ask, we touched on it briefly before the session here, Christine, and I think in general, like table-driven parts and like kind of using Excel sheets to drive design is kind of a big concept in our industry and everything. Can you speak about, I guess, iParts and iAssemblies? Like, is there a bit of overlap with that kind of workflow, would you say, using iLogic and Excel versus this?
I think the short answer to that is yes. It's kind of, it could be kind of a big discussion. So if somebody's really interested, send us a note and we'll get you some information on that. But I think we're getting close to ending time, or at least the time allocated for this.
No, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and so just a heads up for anyone else looking for follow-up information, that is our contact info on the screen over there. And that's support@ketiv.com, and that's our hotline over there as well, which you could get through to us. And one last note here as well. Yeah, and just emphasis from our team over here that using the spreadsheet kind of gives you kind of a more centralized point of reference, right? So if you want the spreadsheet to be the control of all the changes, someone could be in control of that. Maybe that's the Vault in particular. So now it's not necessarily the modeler that has to keep all the extra information on check, right? It's just driven off the spreadsheet itself. So there's a lot of benefits than just, you know, purely, it's not necessarily one-to-one with other workflows in Inventor. Like the Excel worksheet is a great workflow, period, and for a lot of different reasons.
I see one other question. It's, can you just link an Excel sheet to drive parameters, or do you need to load the data into Inventor? I'm not sure what you mean about loading the data into Inventor.
I think they might be
It
making.
does get read in through iLogic and pushed into the part parameter. So, I mean, Inventor is the conduit for that, so it passes through Inventor, but I'm not sure what you mean by load into Inventor.
Right. I think there is I think they're making a distinction between either, because you use the snippets to like access the Excel sheet originally, I think, versus just loading it into the part directly, which, and sorry, I'm getting some more conversation on the side over here. Hang on. Yes, you could just use the data from Excel. You don't have to use parameters as an intermediary. I'm not sure if that's specifically to this question, yeah, but you could just access the data from the Excel sheet using that iLogic that we're talking about. You don't necessarily have to go through and set up parameters in Inventor to use the info from Excel sheets. I think was what my guy was saying here.
Oh yeah, if that's the distinction. Yeah, no,
Yep.
this is more for if you have an interactive user interface, you know, the little form, you want to be able to do it, but you could certainly just read a parameter if you always knew that your configuration had a specific set of parameters and there weren't options, you could just read data straight in, yes.
Right. Yeah, okay, cool. And so I do have one more message over here. I think some people may have had trouble accessing the iLogic playlist. I'm not sure if there's something wrong with that link, but the playlists are available publicly on our YouTube channel. So if you could get to our YouTube channel and check our list of playlists section over there, you should be able to find the iLogic playlist there as well. But send us a message if there is more issues with that at our support info over there. And so I think, wrapping up here, Christine, thanks again for coming out here. I think this is great information and I hope this is helpful to everyone. Thanks for the audience for being through with us here. Feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any more questions. And Christine, thanks again. We hope to talk to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Have a lovely day.